Hello and welcome back to the Genesis Designs and Modelcraft bench, and today I got a little bit of a quick inbox for you, and it's a trick inbox. There's two kits but really only one kit. So what's happened here is I've accidentally bought a couple of Eduards. I was on the Hannants site because I decided I needed to get a metal pitot for the Blackbird model, but the cost of that was too low for sensible postage. The postage was more than the part, so I thought, well, I'll get a couple of kits, or I'll have a look at some kits, and I stumped up for these. So first up we have, this is the Profipack 1/72 Me109E-3 from Eduard. So this is the full fat version with all the additional extras, and then backing that up in an unnecessarily massive box is the weekend edition of the Spitfire Mk. Eduard are absolutely knocking it out of the park with their box art at the minute, aren't they? That is just glorious. Both of these absolutely fabulous. The cost of these kits, well, I'll show you. Messerschmitt Profipack £14.50. The Spitfire, a paltry £10.80. And that's really what's prompted this review. These are such good prices, but let's have a quick look at what you get inside these two kits. So first off then, the Messerschmitt. Now, the reason I called this a trick review is I've already reviewed this kit, because this is actually the special Hobby 109. Regulars to the channel may remember I'd not only reviewed but I've also built this kit previously. So I'll just give you a very quick look at what you get inside, because it's all there on the other videos, which I will link below. So the main sprue, obviously the main airframe components on it. You do get an engine in here. It's not necessarily one I'd want to display, but it's there. And you get this absolutely glorious surface detail. It's so beautiful. It's a really truly delightful kit, and it builds really just as well as it looks. Whoops, I'll move my backdrop there. And then you get the second sprue with all the smaller parts on it. There aren't much in the way of optional parts here. It's pretty much dedicated as it says as an E3. As you can see, it's very crisp. Detail's really good. And it's beautifully moulded. Transparency's there. Optional windscreens, because you get the one with the armour plate on it or the one without. And obviously it can be posed open or closed. So Profipack wise then, you just get these extra parts here. So there's a little kabuki tape pre-cut mask set which covers the canopy and the wheels. And the small photo etched fret, and a massive case of fumble fingers here. Let's bring it out with the card so it's easier to see. And on here we've got sort of radiator cores, the radiator flaps, a bit of airframe detail here and there, and of course the pre-coloured main instrument panels. Harness straps, etc. So it's a handy little addition actually. It's a pretty decent little set to say it's included in the price, and the price is not that high. So Eduard being Eduard, you do get this glorious, absolutely glorious instruction set in really good quality printing, booklet format. We've got the decals there. So the decals will be this much vaunted peelable kind. Some hate them, some like them. I'm on the liking side of the fence, to be honest. The thing with them is, if you do it the right way, it's reasonably foolproof. But even if you don't take that film off, which you can see it there, if you look, see how it sort of tapers into the backing paper. It does that on the model as well, and if you apply these using solutions properly in the way that you normally would, They'll almost disappear anyway, especially if you're using, you know, various clear coats throughout the build. You'll note there that you've got, because we're in the UK, we've actually got ready-made swastikas on the sheet. That'll be snipped off for some countries, and in those countries you'll get these create your own swastika decals. Think of that what you will, I'm not going to get into that here. There's also stencils in both colours. And I can't get them back in the bag. There have been a few comments regarding these decals. I did cover the application of them and the removal of the film in both the 109 build video and the Foxy Killer build video, if you want to dig them out. But because there's been several comments about it, I think I am going to do a Book of Genesis video specifically just on the Eduard decal system. Quick flick through the instructions. Standard Eduard fare. Very, very clear and well laid out. Parts diagrams, all the stuff included in the kit is there. The paint call outs down the bottom are for guns, both aqueous and lacquer, and mission models. You do have the option with this kit, even though it's only 72nd, of having an exposed fuselage gun area. You cannot build this with the guns attached and put the cowling on. You have to choose between the two options. Again, that's detailed in the build video. As you can see, it's all very bog standard. There's nothing exceptionally odd about it. It does all fit very well at the front here, despite the multiple cowl arrangement. And as you can see throughout, the little photo etch additions really do give it quite a lift. The standout feature though, I think, is the schemes. And I'm going to read out the information, so I'll just pop that way you can see it. I'll try and hold it steady. So scheme A. This is an aircraft from JG2 stationed at Beaumont-le-Roger in France, September 1940. And what I really like about this is the way Eduard have gone about the little bit of history or information about this scheme. So it was flown by a pilot called Erich Rudolfer. He was assigned on November the 1st, 1939 to JG2, and he scored his first victory against a French Curtiss Hawk 75 fighter on May the 14th, 1940. He added 8 more victories during the Battle of France. And by May 41, Lieutenant Rudolfer had achieved 19 victories, for which he was awarded the Knight's Cross. In November 41, he was appointed commander of JG2, and in April 1943, during the fighting in Africa, he became commander of the entire Staffel. In the summer, he briefly commanded JG54 on the Eastern Front, and then until early 1945, he led JG54. Squadron 2, I'm not sure of the correct way of pointing it out, but it's sort of, he commanded 4/JG54 and then he led 2. In January 1945, Rudolfer became commander of JG7, equipped with Me262 jets. He was credited with a total of 222 victories and awarded the Knight's Cross with oak leaves and swords. During the war, he flew about 1,000 combat sorties and is reported to have been shot down 16 times. After the war, he flew DC-2 and DC-3 transport aircraft in Australia, then worked for Pan Am and was later employed in Germany by the Luftfahrtbundesamt. A lovely bit of history, not just about that aircraft, but about the pilot who flew it during the war, and then what happened to him afterwards. I think that's a great touch. The second one then. A very interesting little scheme. It's somewhat reminiscent of the Legion Condor type schemes, but wobbly instead of splintery. So this one is an aircraft flown by Oberleutnant August Wilhelm Schumann. What a name. JG52 at Mannheim-Sandhofen in Germany. November and December 1939. Rabat Schumann was born in March 1915 in Berlin, and after his pilot and fighter training served from October 1938 to July 1939 with the Legion Condor in Spain. Following brief service with JG-52 and JG-72, he was appointed commander of JG-52 in September 1939. His aircraft bore a non-standard camouflage on upper surfaces. It was with this aircraft that Schumann probably achieved his first aerial victory in World War II. He shot down an observation balloon at Weissenberg on November 8, 1939. Schumann achieved a total of 20 victories, 4 of them in Spain. He was killed on the Eastern Front on September 6, 1941, south of Leningrad in a collision with another Bf-109. So that's a really interesting scheme, I think you'll agree. Quite different. Next up then, a kind of bog stock Battle of Britain scheme here. This one was flown by Oberstleutnant Karl Alfred Schumacher, JG-1 in Java, Germany, early 1940. His history is as follows. Karl Alfred Schumacher was born in February 1896 in Rheine and fought as an artilleryman and later as a naval aviator during World War I. He attained the rank of Lieutenant zur See and served aboard the float plane carrier SMH Ansfeld. In 1933 he joined the Luftwaffe and commanded several naval aviation units. In March 1939, Karl Alfred Schumacher was promoted to Oberstleutnant, at which time he commanded JG-77. After the German invasion of Poland in October 1939, he was appointed commander of the Jaffe Deutsche Bucht to direct all fighter units stationed on the northern coast of Germany. In November 1939, he was appointed the first commander of JG-1, stationed at Java. Karl Alfred Schumacher scored his first victory on December 18th when he shot down a Wellington bomber. His second victory came on December 27th, that time at Blenheim. His aircraft sported the JG-1 emblem on the left side of the fuselage below the windshield, as well as the Commodore marking consisting of chevron and 2 horizontal bars. In September 1941, Schumacher was appointed, you ready for this? Jagdfliegerführer Norwegen. Nice. But on November 8th, he accidentally shot down a Finnish de Havilland Dragon Rapide and was relieved of command, consequently, and served in various administrative positions until the end of the war. It's very nice. It's sort of this level of detailed history makes what is otherwise a fairly bland scheme seem quite interesting, I think. Alright then, next up. And I'll apologise to our German friends if I'm massacring these pronunciations, but I'm quite enjoying it. So another Battle of Britain looking scheme. This one, Oberstleutnant Max Ibel of JG-27 at Gouin, France, October 1940. This aircraft probably belonged to the Commodore of JG-27 and as a quick identification marking had a yellow engine cowling, following the rule introduced on September the 9th, 1940. The pilot of the aircraft was probably Max Ibel. He was born in Munich in Germany 1896 and served in the Army Engineers and Air Service during the First World War. He did not retire after World War I and from August 28 underwent extensive training at a secret military base in Lipetsk, Russia. In the 1930s he commanded several flight schools and worked for the RLM as well. From 1936 he changed several fighter units and starting from May 1939 he was Commodore of JG-3. In October 1939 he was appointed Commodore of JG-27. He led the unit for 1 year including the Western Campaign and the Battle of Britain. In October 1940 he took command of Jagdfliegerschule 4, but in July 1941 he was appointed the Jagdfliegerführer 3. In February 1942, during Operation Cerberus and Donaukeil, he was a fighter liaison officer aboard the battleship Scharnhorst. In 1943 and 44 he was commander of the Jagddivision 2. At the end of the war he was captured at Tegensee and subjected to extensive interrogations at Island Farm Camp. He was released in March 1948 and joined the Bundesluftwaffe in October 1957, becoming commander of the Luftverteidigungsdivision 1. He retired in September 64 and he died in 1981. Fantastic bit of history. 2 more, we're nearly there. You can fast forward if it's boring for you. So this one then, Oberstleutnant Helmut Hentz, CO of JG77 in Kristiansand, I don't know Norwegian, it says KJEVIK, Norway, September 1940. Helmut Hentz was born in January 1911 in Berlin. After completing his pilot training and transferring to JG136, Helmut Hentz was sent to the Legion Condor to gain pilot experience in the fighting of the Spanish Civil War. The beginning of World War II found Oberleutnant Hentz in command of the 4th Staffel of JG77, achieving his first victory on December the 14th, 1939 by shooting down a British Wellington. JG77 was part of the invasion force in the attack on Norway. Its 4th Staffel under Oberleutnant Hentz moved to Kristiansand airfield on April the 11th, 1940. They remained in Norway until December 1940, when they moved to the front at the Channel. This aircraft sported camouflage in RLM 70, 71 and 65 colours with a high transition between the upper and lower colours on the fuselage sides, so-called Fortier Anstrich. On the left side of the fuselage in front of the windshield was the 2-group emblem, and under the cockpit a black Reaper with an umbrella flying on a scythe was painted as the emblem of the 4th Staffel. The initials LF belonged to the pilot's girlfriend. In April 1941, Hentz became commander of JG77, but on May the 25th he was shot down in the dogfight with the crew of a Blenheim near Crete and is still missing. In total, he achieved 6 victories. Alright, and the last one. This is one of these cool squiggly overpaint jobs. And this is flown by Feldwebel Arthur Haas of JG51 and Marquise West, France, August 1940. The serial number 8508 is sometimes mistakenly given for this aircraft. In fact, the serial was probably 5058 and the aircraft was produced by Wiener Neustädter Flugzeugwerke GmbH in late 1939. Its pilot was Arthur Haas or Haas or Hazer, who had a personal symbol inspired by his surname, Der Hazer, in English hare, painted on the side of the aircraft. He's a pistol packing hare with binoculars. The painting was done by mechanic Hoffman. On the side of the fuselage there was also the emblem of JG51, depicting a raven with the inscription Gott strafe England, may God punish England. The yellow colour part of the rudders, wingtips and horizontal tail surfaces was introduced in early August 1940. The commander of JG51 was the legendary Joseph Pips Priller. During the fighting over France in May and June 1940, Hazer shot down 2 Hurricanes and added 1 Spitfire in late July. His 4th and final victory came in on August the 15th, 1940, when he fought Hurricanes from No. 1 Squadron Royal Air Force off Clacton-on-Sea. However, he was wounded in the battle and crash-landed his aircraft at Ouessant in France. Photographs from the preparation of the transport of the damaged aircraft show Hazer's machine with 3 kills marked on the tail. Hazer was killed on January 29th, 1944 in aerial combat. At the time, he was serving as a flight instructor with the rank of Oberfeldwebel with JG107 in France. There you go. And on the back, stencil detail as usual. So that is a delightful little package for just £14.50, and this is what it builds up to. This was built from the special hobby version of the kit, but it's the exact same kit, exact same model, and this is what you can expect to get from it. It's a beautiful, beautiful little kit. It fits together really, really nicely. no real gotchas with it. And as I said, I will link the build that I did in the description below. Alright, now having done the 109 to death then, here's the Spitfire. This is a weekend edition version, and this isn't a new kit by any means, but I haven't reviewed this on the channel, although I have built one, and in fact I do have a couple of others in the stash. Now then, weekend edition, what does that even mean? It doesn't mean that you can expect to build it in a weekend, although I suppose you could if you were very committed. It just means that it's a slightly simplified edition of the kit, insofar as there is no included photo etch or mask sets with this. In every other way, it's the same as a Profipack. It's the same plastic parts. In times gone by, the weekend kits came in kind of cheap looking boxes and had sort of photocopied looking instructions, and generally only had one decal option as well to keep the price down. That seems to have gone by the wayside now. These weekend kits they're back in the good quality boxes. The instructions are the same quality as the Profipacks, and you have multiple decal options. The only difference is, as I say, the lack of the little extra parts that you get in a Profipack. So this was £10.80, so let's just say £11 for this. Just let that sink in for a second. £11. Now keep that in mind as we go forward. So lift the lid on this beauty, and it is just gorgeous box art, absolutely beautiful. And what do we get inside? Well, compared to that 109, it seems quite a lot, doesn't it? So let's start at the beginning with the plastic parts. Get rid of these other bits out of the way. Some loud glue. So the main airframe parts then for this kit. There we go. Let me bring you up, because just like that 109, you've got this outstanding surface detail. It's fully riveted in different ways. It's not just a consistent size and type of sort of rivet representation. There's all different kinds. It features raised details as well, various places. It does have a slight raised area around this fuel tank armour, as it should. It's truly absolutely beautifully done. Now those of you that are Spitfire will already have noted that there are several options present here, to say the least. You have both types of rudder there, the broad chord or the pointy tip one and the stock one. You've got short span wingtips, two different undercowls for the engine area. That's the standard later one, and this will be for an earlier one. And no less than 5 halves for the upper cowl. This allows the representation of the Packard engined aircraft with the slight hump in them, and it allows for the different arrangement of the various servicing hatches. Some people see it as a nose that you have to join these two halves of the cowl together, citing the fact that you then have to clean up a seam. But show me any Spitfire kit, especially in 72nd, that even has a separate cowl and bothers to allow for all of these variants. If it were moulded in situ as it is on almost all other Spitfire kits, you would have to clean that up anyway. So I find it a little bit asinine to complain about that. But if it really bothers the modeller that much, aftermarket one-piece upper cowls are available for the kit. That particular rant over, we'll move on. We've got these two smaller sprues, and here we have various different wingtip and control surface arrangements. So here you have two different types of aileron, a short span and a longer span. and the standard later type metal covered elevator tailplane. So the elevators are moulded in place for displease some, I'm sure. But this pair here is the later type with the larger sort of mass balance area and metal covered elevators. These are metal covered ailerons, of course. And on this sprue you have the fabric covered elevator option, so that again is in the later version there, this one. And this one being the earlier kind, which is only applicable to the initial run of Mark 9s which were converted from Mark 5s. And then in the middle, standard width or length, standard span wingtips, and then the long span wingtips for the high flight versions. Then you've got this rather excellent package of lots and lots and lots of tiny pieces. Let's see what we can find in here. All the goodies. So, first one then. You've got all of your internals in here, pretty much your cockpit detail areas. So, various fuselage frames, instrument panels. So you've got a blank instrument panel there for use with decals and or photo etch, and then one with the raised detail. The radiator scoops are in multiple parts, as is the seat, and that's just sort of little base part for the cockpit, armour plate, oxygen bottles, etc. Then over here there are two types of exhaust, so the sort of the round exit and the fishtail style, the flattened off ones. Three different pairs of undercarriage legs. The small carburettor intake. That's a little jig part that goes inside. Got three different cockpit entrance doors. That's the sides of the seats, the rudder pedals and the seat frame. You've got a pair of slipper tanks, a smaller one and a bigger one, and two sets of main undercarriage doors. So the later kind with sort of the little extra part here which covers the torque link, and the slightly earlier kind, but they're all of the bulged nature, unlike the earlier aircraft. And then the last sprue, you've got the cockpit sidewalls, a little spar piece. This is your undercarriage bay pieces, so it's in multiple parts to allow for the fact that the bay itself slopes backwards up into the wing. And it isn't circular, it's quite a sort of elongated circle shape. Got a one-piece propeller there, a spinner, and the back plates over here. Then we've got some small bombs. I am not an ordnance expert, I don't know which exact bombs these are supposed to be. A couple of different tail wheel options, that's the retractable one there. Cannon stub options, wheel options, 3-spoke, 4-spoke and 5-spoke hubs, and then a selection also of tyres along the top there. So you see, you can build any, pretty much with all these parts that are included in every kit. You can build pretty much any Spitfire 9 high back, because you've only got the high back fuselage parts. Then the clear parts are on this fabulous little wagon wheel of canopies. So what you get on here, we've got transparent clipped wing tips, so if you wanted to use these so that you can mask off the navigation lights, you could. A single windscreen, open and closed options for the standard high back canopy, and a low back canopy for the cut down rear fuselage options of the Mark 9 or the 16. Then you've also got some nav lights, the ident lamp underneath, and a couple of gun sights as well. And I think you'll agree they're really rather nicely done. indeed. Now, as I said earlier, weekend editions tended not to have multiple decal options, but this one does. They do now. Again, the now standard Peely decals. This is your stencil set. It's quite comprehensive, even including patches for the machine gun apertures. And then the main decal options, and exactly the same as the 109, you've got that lovely sort of tapering blended carrier fill. Now, some of the complaints surrounding these decals, it's not just the fact that they've got this peeling option, it's the fact that they're quite badly printed in some cases, and I can identify with that because certainly some of the earlier iterations of this had quite a sort of dotty appearance and the colours weren't great. But these look absolutely fine to me. The colours look alright, the registration is good, it don't seem to be too speckly. And notice that you do also have harness straps and an instrument panel decal here. Certainly some interesting thoughts with the harness straps with this peelable film. Could work quite well with a lot of care, to be honest. So on to the instructions. And this boxing is for the Mark 9C, so clearly the instructions will focus on that variant. I think you get different wing parts in the other Spitfire types. Usual there. And then into the build, as ever, colour callouts just the same as the 109. Guns, Mr. Hobby and Mr. Colour, and mission models. And you can see that as you look through this, that this cockpit detail does really build up into quite a nice representation, especially for such a small scale. The colour callouts are fairly specific. Note that you have to trim the fuselage parts if you want the closed canopy option. Eduard are happily assuming that people want to build it with the canopy open. It's fitting the wheelbase here, that little piece of spar helps with all the alignment and keeps the wing sturdy. It's very, very, very standard stuff. Because they've printed this in such a large format, in an A4 booklet, these diagrams are really big, really easy to follow. You even get a stencil for the inside of the cockpit door. And as I say, none of these options that are on the sprues really mentioned because these instructions are focusing on a Mark 9C. And then we get to the colour options, and again we've got some fairly nice details, and again I'm going to read it, so grab yourself a cuppa and settle back for Genesis story time. So option A is Mk244, flown by Wing Commander Jan Czechoslovakian, it's Cermak or Shamak or whatever, I don't know how to say it. Number 312, Czechoslovakian Squadron. RAF Appledram. I don't know where RAF Appledram is, and I'm going to look that up. In fact, I'm going to look it up now. I'm going to activate Google. Alright, having looked that up, I can confirm that RAF Appledram is in fact just southwest of Chichester in West Sussex, or east of Portsmouth, if that makes it easier for people. So it's on the south coast of England. So, the former number 312 Squadron Commander, Wing Commander Jan Cermak, was at the time of the Normandy landing the ground and administrative commander of the number 134 Wing, but regardless, he personally led the unit on several missions. One of those was a routine patrol of the Czechoslovak fighters over Sword Beach, which turned into a large-scale air battle. Czechoslovak pilots broke up the formation of a dozen Focke-Wulf 190As, whose goal was to bomb the beach crowded with troops and equipment. 3 190s were destroyed and 5 damaged, at no losses to the Czechs. In this combat, Wing Commander Cermak claimed 1 Focke-Wulf 190 destroyed and 1 damaged. On this mission he flew Spitfire Mk-244, which was the personal aircraft of flying officer Yaroslav Shodek, who flew it in combat on a regular basis from February to June 1944. There you go, standard sort of D-Day European markings. Pretty nice. Next one, FFD. This is Mk-144, flown by Squadron Leader Alan Page of 132 Squadron RF Ford. During the Battle of Britain, Alan Geoffrey Page was shot down and suffered serious burns. Following 2+ years in the hospital recovering from his injuries, he undertook plastic surgery in Queen Victoria Hospital in East Grinstead and became the founding member of the Guinea Pig Club. Ultimately, he managed to return to active duty and became one of the most successful British fighter pilots. During the spring months of 1944, as the commander of 132 Squadron, he flew the depicted Spitfire on offensive bombing and fighter sweeps preceding the invasion. On April 29th, on one such mission, over Deelen airfield in the Netherlands, he managed to shoot down a Bf-110G4, flown by the elite night fighter ace Major Hans Joachim Jabs. On July 7th, Page was promoted to command the elite 125 wing. At the end of September, shortly after the conversion to the new powerful Spitfire 16, Page's Spitfire was damaged by flak over Arnhem suburbs and he crash landed. He wounded his face on the gun sight and suffered some other injuries. He was transported by air back to the UK and again admitted to Queen Victoria Hospital in East Grinstead. After the war, he became an active member of the Battle of Britain Association of Fighter Pilots and was a moving force behind the creation of the Battle of Britain Memorial, which was erected on the cliffs between Dover and Folkestone in 1993. During his wartime career, Alan Geoffrey Page shot down 15 enemy aircraft and damaged 3 more. His autobiography, The Guinea Pig Story, was published in 1981. And it's pretty much a must-read, I think, for anyone who's interested in these things. Next up, Mk-832, flown by Squadron Leader Robert K. Hayward of No. 411 Squadron at Benny-sur-Mer Airfield, France. Robert Kitchener, Bob Hayward, came from the pool of former Royal Canadian Air Force flight instructors who served with No. 126 Wing. He was born on November 12, 1915 in St John's, Newfoundland. After he completed his pilot training, he served at the main training base CFB Trenton. From February 1941 to October 1942, he flew there as an instructor with No. 25 Flying Training School. In March 1943, Hayward stated that he wished to fly combat missions with 401 Squadron, where in the coming months he scored 3 aerial kills. In May 1944, after arrest, he was again attached to 411 Squadron as a flight leader. On August 5, 1944, he was promoted to Squadron Commander, and until the end of September 1944 he claimed another 3 confirmed kills and 4 enemy aircraft damaged. After he finished his tour of duty, he returned to Canada, and until March 1945 he flew again as an instructor with 25th Flight Training School. From May to September 1945 he briefly served at No. 16 Flying Training School in Hagersville, and in November 1945 he retired to civilian life. And the final option, and in fact the reason I bought the kit, despite already having a couple of these, is this one. Option D, flown by Lieutenant Robert J. Connors of the 309th Fighter Squadron of the 31st Fighter Group of the 12th Air Force at Castelvolturno in Italy. Lieutenant Robert Connors' Spitfire carried on the port side of the fuselage the artwork depicting the Porky Pig character, which referred to his nickname of Porky. After its arrival in Britain in June 1943, the 309th Fighter Squadron was re-equipped with Mark V Spitfires and flew them in Europe, North Africa, Sicily and Italy. In April 1943, the unit received its first Spitfire 9s, often flown as upper cover for the older Mark Vs. In March 44, they traded their Spitfires for Mustangs, which possessed a much longer range and enabled them to escort the US Army Air Force bombers as far as southern Germany. So this one is the sort of classic Sicily/Italy markings, standard temperate scheme with red bits. And the reason I like this scheme actually is that there is an aircraft currently flying out of Duxford bearing these markings, and it's an aircraft which operates with classic wings and flies alongside the Dragon Rapide very regularly, so I see this aircraft all the time close up on the ground. So I would really, I'm going to make this as a model and pose it, and I do think it is quite an attractive aircraft actually anyway. But this is the reason I bought the kit. And then on the back, as ever, the stencil positions. So again, a really fabulous package, and I have built this kit. I built it when it way back when it came out. In fact, built it for Airfix Model World, so that somewhere it'll be in print. I can't remember which issue it was in, but here's what you get from that set of plastic parts. In the comments, which famous French fighter ace is this aircraft? I really enjoyed building this. It's pretty much flawless. Used period photos from my second Tactical Air Force box to sort of try and get the weathering fairly spot on, although it isn't actually as dirty as the real thing, as dirty as it is. But it is just, this is a stonking little kit, as I think you can probably see. And the detail inside, this was built from a Profipack to be fair, but the internal detail is superb, particularly for the scale. Alright, well that was Amazon ding-donging, sorry about that. I just dealt with the front door, and here we are. This is the two kits all built up. As I said before, this one is on YouTube, I'll link it below. This one isn't, but if you comb through the back issues of Airfix Model World, you should find it somewhere. So I don't know which issue it was in. They are both absolutely beautiful kits, and just the level of detail and authenticity, I think, for want of a better word, that we're getting now in 70-second scale, to me it's incredible, and it's completely reignited 1/72 scale for me, that you can build these little jewels of kits without any real extra effort, and with Eduard in particular, you can take this a step further because they have all their brass in additions, and you can build this with the full engine and everything if you really wanted to. I personally hope it continues because I love big models. I love 32nd scale and 48 scale, but I don't have room in my house to display them all, whereas when you can make models this gorgeous in 72nd scale, it just makes all the sense to me, because you can store two of these in the space of one 1/48th model, of course. And it allows you to have some bigger aircraft to put next to all of your completed little aircraft for sort of a sense of scale and proportion. And on top of that wondrousness, to think that you can get this model for £11, it's fantastic, and it's a credit to Eduard, honestly. To produce something of that quality for such a small price. It's fantastic. So this one, the Model 9, was initially released by Special Hobby, but I remember saying at the time that it had very much had the look of Eduard about it, and I think Eduard then releasing it under their own label kind of validates that a bit. I think it was probably developed in concert with Eduard, if not at least with some advice and help from them. And long may it continue if they're going to pump out models of this quality, which they are doing, because I've built the Heinkel 162 kit from Special Hobby as well, and it's absolutely every bit as good as this Messerschmitt 109 is. So yeah, these little absolute diamonds in 1/72 really do have my eye, as you'll have noted. I've done quite a few reviews of these 1/72 Wonder kits, and I'll probably continue to do so, honestly. So there you go, just a little quick look, inbox review of these two beautiful kits with the added spice of some finished examples to look at the end. I can't recommend them enough. At that price, you'd be foolish not to buy them before they go out of stock and or go up in price, because it is going to happen. So support Eduard, let them keep doing this, and indeed all these other manufacturers producing these beautiful kits like IBG and Special Hobby. So with that said, I'll leave you. Again, it's Christmas time, so I'll say Merry Christmas to everybody. Thanks again for the support throughout the year. Huge thanks to the people who supported me on Buy Me a Coffee up to now. And if anybody wishes to support the channel in that way, the link for that is below also. So yes, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, have a great time. Enjoy all of your family and friends. Stay warm, stay healthy. And it only remains for me to say, having said all of that lot, look after yourselves, look after each other, and Genesis out.